My paper is titled "A Dying Last Stand of the Dichotomy," and I'd like to begin with a quote from DeBord's Society of the Spectacle, written in 1967. DeBord wrote, quote, "This society, which eliminates geographical distance, reproduces distance internally, a spectacular separation." End quote. Being in two minds is common. We have all been there, and it can happen at any time. It can affect different people on varying degrees, from making a simple decision about what to wear to a condition regarded as much more severe, such as bipolar disorder. When DeBord wrote of the spectacular separation created by a lack of geographical distance, he was writing before the time of the internet, but his words still ring clear as doom and gloom. Within his words exists entropy. This paper explores the life that Second Life may have left, and suggests that despite all its supposed social benefits, it's a ticking time bomb, and reminds the internet of a small problem: an expiry date. The expiry date I'm suggesting may not necessarily be a physical one where everything ceases to function because of inability. It could be the choice to turn one's attention away from it. Only 10 years ago, the internet was soliciting for users, and now it thrives on them. With no users, it's merely an encyclopedia sitting on a bookshelf, a movie with no audience, a full warehouse with no customers. It needs us to keep it going. Visitor statistics help define the success and failures of companies. Knowledge-sharing sites such as Wikipedia rely on able-bodied functionaries to donate information. Likewise, Second Life depends on its users, and it does this by focusing on one aspect of our lives where we are the weakest: the mind. Through its virtual spaces, it embodies the dreams and possibilities that we could never achieve in the physical world. It offers opportunities to those looking to take them, when they perhaps lost the chance before. It allows the ability to defy all the material things that make our world what it is, but above all, it glorifies the victory of mind over matter. The intentions were perhaps noble and good: a place of freedom, a place where democracy can begin again. But does it not simply create another generation of opportunists, looking for the opportunity they could never have before? In creating a second place of democracy, haven't we merely created a version 2.0 of the first project of democracy, except that this one is digital? One of the most obvious concerns with such a virtual world is the state of the physical supports, those that we may call people. What Willem Clusser considered to be functionaries could arguably be considered as batteries that is keeping the software running. Shades of the Matrix are hard to avoid here, unfortunately. If the physical supports were to disconnect or even die, could the software continue to run by itself? The answer would be no. It relies on a feedback of the participants, and no feedback would mean no progression, and it would all come to a standstill. The biggest threat then to this second life is boredom, and this world will do anything to avoid this from happening. Put simply, it needs to distract its participants in order to survive. Here then, we are confronted again by the spectacle, the flaw of our physical world, which is now equally the flaw of the second one, and boredom could well be the death of it. Distraction is the means to keep the inhabitants of the second life in a state of slumber. As DeBord said, quote, "The spectacle is the guardian of sleep," end quote. Whilst the mind is distracted in its alternate universe, its physical counterpart is losing the battle. It continues to be torn literally between two worlds. The comparisons with schizophrenia have already been made and shall not be detailed here, yet the potential for massive psychological damage is alarming. A reaction to previous cases of split personalities led to cognitive processes being seen as a way to balance and harmonize the mind and body, but it could also be seen as a threat to the polarization of classes and elitism within society, and therefore as an undesired compromise for both parties. This is a war that constantly takes place between body and mind, a dichotomy where the mind continues to fight for independence from its physical support. Second Life gives the mind a new stance in this war, and what's more, it fights this battle within its territory. How long can this war last? In the novel Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World by Haruki Murakami, the reader finds himself switching between two worlds as the chapters alternate between the narrator's presence in the real world, Hard-Boiled Wonderland, and the narrator's presence in his own mind, the End of the World. As the story progresses, events bleed into each other as two sides of the narrator compete for sole ownership of the whole narrator. In his mind, the narrator's shadow has been taken captive and held hostage, losing its energy and life day by day. In the real world, the narrator is observant and yet passive to the events taking place around him. In each world, the narrator slowly grows in awareness to what is happening, and the strife between the two sides intensifies until it reaches a climatic point of intolerance. Whether this point of intolerance is the result of death or apathy is difficult to ascertain, yet it does propose an end in each world. What then are the implications of apathy towards Second Life? Assuming that the apathy is 100% concentrated, meaning able to resist all further attempts to distract the participant, the apathetic participant may turn themselves away from the much bigger monster, the Internet. And if this happens, then perhaps the now wiser participant may then turn themselves away from that oldest of all monsters, spectacle. To propose a date for such a revelation would be foolhardy, for as Jonathan Crary warned, quote, "The inescapable yet continually evaded truth is that participation in the emerging information, imaging, and communications technologies will never, in the meaningful future, expand beyond a minority of people on this planet," end quote. For the time being, Second Life will continue to run its course. It will continue to absorb more and more people, and they will all at some point experience a separation that could destroy the illusion or even themselves. Second Life, like the Internet, like spectacle itself, is entropic. One need only look for one's shadow in Second Life for proof of this.